Published 0348 EDT, the 23rd of October 2017. Updated 1404 EDT, the 23rd of October 2017. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe pledged on Monday to work with the US, China and Russia to contain North Korea's nuclear threat with strong, resolute diplomacy, as he humbly accepted his landslide victory in a snap election. Fresh from clinching a two-thirds supermajority that enables the nationalist premier to realize his dream of revising Japan's pacifist constitution, Abe vowed to forge a national consensus on the divisive issue. Addressing reporters on his election win, Abe said he would confirm close cooperation on North Korea with Donald Trump when the U.S. president visits Japan next month and then discuss the issue with the Chinese and Russian leaders. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe pledged on Monday to work with the U.S., China and Russia to contain North Korea's nuclear threat as he accepted his landslide victory in a snap election. Addressing reporters on his election win, Abe said he would confirm close cooperation on North Korea with Donald Trump when the U.S. president visits Japan next month and then discuss the issue with the Chinese and Russian leaders. "I have renewed my determination to secure people's lives and peaceful living, no matter what," said the 63-year-old leader of Japan's Liberal Democratic Party LDP. Abe and Trump spoke on by phone after the Japanese premier's win on Sunday and agreed to work together to raise pressure on North Korea. The two leaders will play golf together on November 5, when Trump makes his first visit to Japan as president, Yasutoshi Nishimura, a deputy chief cabinet secretary, told reporters. During their 30-minute phone call, Abe told Trump that he had urged necessity of placing as much pressure as possible on North Korea so it will change its policies under the Unshakable Japanese Alliance, a government official told Japan Today. The leaders agreed to further discuss their approach to North Korea at their meeting next month. North Korea, which has threatened to sink Japan and fired 2 missiles over its northern islands, dominated the 12-day election campaign that Abe eventually won comfortably. Abe is now on course to become Japan's longest-serving premier, winning a fresh term at the helm of the world's third-biggest economy and key U.S. regional ally in the immediate term. The win likely means a continuation of the policies Abe has pursued since he took office in December 2012, a hard line on North Korea, close ties with Washington, including more purchase of American missile interceptors, as well as a super-loose monetary policy and push for nuclear energy. Stocks rose in Tokyo on Monday morning. Abe said he will have deep discussion on North Korean policies with President Donald Trump during his planned November 57 visit in Japan. Abe's ruling coalition already has a two-thirds majority in the less powerful upper house. Having a so-called supermajority in both houses gives them virtually a free hand to push even divisive policies and legislation. That would also increase Abe's chances for achieving a constitutional revision, a goal his party and its nationalist supporters have advocated for years. They view the 1947 Constitution as the legacy of Japan's defeat in World War II and an imposition of the victor's world order and values. The charter renounces the use of force in international conflicts and limits Japan's troops to self-defense. Although Japan has a well-equipped modern military that works closely with the U.S., any change to Japan's constitution, which has never been amended, requires approval first by two-thirds of parliament, and then in a public referendum. Polls indicate that the Japanese public remains opposed to amendment. The win indicates Abe has bounced back from the summer, when support ratings for his cabinet plunged to 30% after accusations of government favoritism to people connected to him. For the first time since he took office nearly 5 years ago, he appeared vulnerable as both party leader and prime minister. "We will solve North Korea's missile, nuclear and abduction issues with strong, resolute diplomacy," he said in reference to the abduction of Japanese by Pyongyang in the 1970s and 1980s. The opposition Party of Hope, formed only weeks before the election by the popular Tokyo governor Yuriko Koike, pictured speaking to press from Paris on Sunday, suffered a drubbing. It won just 49 seats according to the NHK projections. Abe's conservative coalition was on track to win at least 313 seats with only a handful left to call on Monday, according to public broadcaster NHK, giving him the coveted two-thirds majority in the lower house of parliament. Abe dissolved the lower house less than a month ago, forcing the snap election. Analysts saw it as an attempt to solidify his political standing at a time when the opposition was in disarray and his support ratings had improved somewhat. He is now on course to become Japan's longest-serving premier, winning a fresh term at the helm of the world's third-biggest economy and key U.S. regional ally. North Korean belligerents helped the ruling coalition because people are scared and voted for Abe's hardline stance, said Gerald Curtis, professor of political science at Columbia University. "I focused on the national defense issue, because I am concerned about North Korea. So I chose the party that will work firmly on this issue, one voter, 66-year-old pensioner Tsuyoshi Yoshijima, told AFP. However, while local media acknowledged what was described as a landslide victory, many attributed Abe's win to a weak and ineffective opposition and urged caution. Abe and U.S. President Donald Trump spoke by phone after the Japanese's premier's win on Sunday and agreed to work together to raise pressure on North Korea. North Korea, which has threatened to sink Japan and fired 2 missiles over its northern islands, dominated the 12-day election campaign that Abe eventually won comfortably. Voters didn't think the opposition parties were capable of running a government. They chose Prime Minister Abe, who is at least better, even if they had some concerns about the ruling coalition, said the Nikkei Daily. The Asahi newspaper said the Abe brand is not as strong as it was before. There are some signs that voters are seeking a change in the situation whereby Abe is the only decent option. According to an exit poll by Kyodo News on Sunday, 51% of voters said they do not trust Abe, with 44% saying they did. The ruling coalition's victory, though, reflects as much the lack of viable alternatives as support for Abe, a fact that he seemed to acknowledge in post-election comments. Turnout was just 54%, as typhoon rains lashed much of the country on the day of the election. I will humbly face the victory and continue to work humbly and sincerely, he told NHK, noting lingering public distrust over the scandals. The opposition Party of Hope, formed only weeks before the election by the popular Tokyo governor Yuriko Koike, suffered a drubbing. It won just 49 seats according to the NHK projections. A chastened Koike, speaking thousands of kilometers away in Paris where she was attending an event in her capacity as leader of the world's biggest city, said it was a very severe result for which she took full responsibility. While local media acknowledged what was described as a landslide victory, many attributed Abe's win to a weak and ineffective opposition and urged caution. Abe, leader of the Liberal Democratic Party (LDP), receives a rosette to place on a name of a candidate who is expected to win the lower house election. At the LDP headquarters in Tokyo on Sunday, election staff members count votes in lower house elections at a ballot counting center in Tokyo on Sunday. Shortly after polls closed on Sunday, Japanese media projected that Abe would win a clear majority. The new center-left Constitutional Democratic Party outperformed Koike's new group but still trailed far behind Abe with 55 seats. People are reluctant about Prime Minister Abe, but then who would you turn to? There is no one, said Naoto Nonaka, professor at Gakushuin University in Tokyo. Abe, who has in the past been criticized for arrogance towards voters, vowed to face the challenge posed by the victory humbly. He struck a cautious note on possible revisions to the use-imposed constitution, saying he would deepen debate in Parliament on the divisive issue but not seek to ram anything through. Any changes to the document must be ratified by both chambers of Parliament and then in a referendum, with surveys showing voters are split on the topic. Abe would want to see a constitutional revision, but we know he is ideologically on the right and he's very pragmatic at the same time. And I think that pragmatism will force him to back off from pushing that issue too hard, said Curtis. Many voters stressed that the economy is their biggest concern. The Prime Minister's trademark Abenomics strategy of ultra-loose monetary policy and huge government spending has failed to rekindle the former Asian powerhouse. But investors cheered the victory, with the benchmark Tokyo Index up 1.11%, extending a winning run that has seen 15 straight consecutive gains for the first time in its near 70-year history.